I used to believe that the worst pain in life came from things beyond our control, an illness, an accident, an unpredictable tragedy. But I was wrong. The deepest wounds are inflicted by the people we trust the most, the ones we let into our hearts, the ones who promised to stand beside us. That night, I learned just how much damage betrayal can do. Lorna, my wife of 7 years, had been acting different for weeks. At first, I thought she was just stressed. She'd been more distant, her phone glued to her hand, quick to turn it over whenever I walked by. When I asked if something was wrong, she gave me that soft smile, the one that used to make me feel like the luckiest man alive, and told me not to worry. Just a lot on my mind, she'd say. I wanted to believe her. Then came the party. It was hosted by one of her friends, someone from her work. I barely knew them, but she insisted we go. She'd been excited about it, picking out a dress weeks in advance, texting constantly about the plans. I should have seen it then, how eager she was, how much effort she put in. Not for me. Not for us. For someone else. The moment we arrived, I felt like a ghost in my own life. Lorna barely stayed by my side, flitting through the room like she was exactly where she belonged. The way she smiled at everyone, laughed a little too hard at jokes that weren't funny, it was like I was watching a version of her I didn't recognize. Then, I saw him. A man I had never met before, standing too close, his hand resting at the small of her back like it belonged there. And she didn't move away. She didn't even look uncomfortable. Instead, she leaned into him, her fingers brushing against his arm. The kind of touch that wasn't meant for just anyone. The kind of touch that belonged to a secret. My stomach turned. I told myself to be rational. Maybe he was just a friend. Maybe I was imagining things. I had always trusted her. But the way she looked at him, God, I'll never forget it. Like he was the only person in the room. Like I wasn't even there. I stepped back, blending into the crowd, watching, studying. And then, just as I started piecing it all together, she turned. Her eyes locked onto mine. For the briefest moment, her face went pale, her smile faltering. She knew. She knew I had seen it. And yet, instead of running to me, instead of trying to explain, she turned back to him, whispered something in his ear, laughed again, this time softer, more intimate. She left the party not long after, slipping out into the night, assuming I would follow. Assuming I would be heartbroken, devastated, unable to process it all. But she didn't know me as well as she thought. Because while she walked away, thinking she had all the power, I stood there, my mind already working, planning, preparing. She had no idea that she had just set something in motion. And by the time she realized what I was about to do, it would be far too late. I didn't go after her that night. I didn't scream. I didn't make a scene. I didn't give her the satisfaction of watching me crumble. Instead, I stayed. I stayed at that party, blending into the background like I was no one at all. The laughter, the clinking glasses, the music, all of it became a dull, distant noise in my ears. My entire world had just collapsed, but no one around me even noticed. They didn't see the way my hands clenched into fists at my sides. They didn't see the way my heart pounded against my ribs, not with sadness, not with confusion, but with clarity. Because in that moment, I saw everything for what it was. I wasn't the man she loved. I was the man she tolerated. The man she kept around because I was safe, steady, predictable. I had spent years thinking we were happy, that she still looked at me the way she used to when we were young, that the small changes in her weren't warning signs but just the natural shifts that come with time. I was an idiot. She had left the party thinking I was broken, thinking I would beg for answers, thinking I would be waiting at home, demanding she tell me how long it had been going on. But she was wrong. I had no interest in answers. I had no interest in fighting for something that had already been destroyed. I just wanted to make sure she never saw me coming. I don't remember how long I stayed at the party after that. Could have been 10 minutes. Could have been an hour. Time didn't feel real anymore. At some point, I left. I didn't go home right away. I drove around aimlessly, my mind racing, every memory of us flashing through my head like scenes from a movie I didn't recognize anymore. The way she used to curl into me at night, whispering about the future we'd build together. The way she used to light up when I walked through the door after work, like I was the best part of her day. The way she used to say my name, like it meant something. Had it all been a lie? Or had she changed somewhere along the way, and I had just been too blind to see it? I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles turning white. It didn't matter. What mattered was what I was going to do next. I wouldn't be reckless. I wouldn't make mistakes. I wouldn't lash out in anger and ruin my own life in the process. No, I would be patient. I would be smart. Because revenge, real revenge isn't about rage. It's about control. And for the first time in a long time, I had all the control. When I finally pulled into the driveway, the house was dark. Her car was there, parked exactly where it always was. She was inside, waiting. I could picture her perfectly, pacing the living room, rehearsing excuses, crafting lies, ready to spin the story in whatever direction benefited her most. I took a deep breath before stepping inside. The second I walked through the door, she was there. "Travis," she said, her voice soft, careful. She had always been a master at sounding sweet when she needed to. "You left without me." I stared at her, silent. She took a step closer. I wanted to talk to you about earlier." I didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. She was testing the waters, trying to gauge just how much I had actually seen. I tilted my head slightly. "About what?" I saw the flicker of relief in her eyes. She thought I was giving her an opening. "The party," she continued, her tone rehearsed. "I saw you looking at me, and she hesitated, like she was debating which version of the truth she was about to sell me. "I know it might have looked bad, but it wasn't what you think. He's just a friend. We were just talking, Travis." I swear. A friend. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I simply nodded. "Okay." She blinked. "Okay. I believe you," I lied. Her shoulders relaxed, the tension in her face melting away. She bought it. Of course she did. Because she still thought she knew me. She still thought I was the same man I was before that night. But she had no idea. That was the last real conversation we ever had. Because while she slept peacefully that night, thinking she had avoided disaster, I was already setting things in motion. I wasn't going to fight for her. I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to erase her. And when she finally realized what was happening, it would be far too late. Lorna thought she had won. She thought I had accepted her half-hearted excuse, that I had swallowed the lie and moved on like a fool who couldn't see the truth even when it was staring him in the face. That was her biggest mistake. That night, as she lay beside me in bed, breathing evenly in the darkness, I stared at the ceiling, feeling nothing but cold clarity. I didn't feel heartbreak. That part had died the moment I saw her with him. I didn't feel anger. That would have been too easy. All I felt was resolve. She thought she was in control, that she held all the cards. But I had already started taking them from her, one by one, silently, methodically. Because real revenge isn't loud. It's quiet. It's patient. And it starts long before the other person even realizes it. The setup. The next morning, I acted the same way I always did. I got up, went for a run, showered, made breakfast. I kissed Lorna on the cheek before heading to work, just like I had done every morning for years. She smiled at me like nothing had changed, like she hadn't just shattered our marriage. She had no idea I was already working on my exit. The first thing I did was go completely silent. Not with words. No, that would have been too obvious, but in ways she wouldn't immediately notice. I stopped engaging emotionally. I stopped asking how her day was. I stopped planning date nights, stopped checking in on her, stopped caring about the little things that used to make up the foundation of our relationship. It wasn't enough for her to think I was just distant. No, I needed her to feel it, that creeping sense that something was off, that something had shifted. I wanted her to wonder. I wanted her to second-guess herself. Because the moment she started feeling insecure, the moment she started losing control, that's when she would start making mistakes. And I needed her to make mistakes. The lies begin to unravel. It took less than 2 weeks for her to start showing signs of worry. At first, it was subtle. She lingered longer in the kitchen, watching me from the corner of her eye as I scrolled through my phone at the dinner table. She reached for my hand when we walked down the street, fingers tightening around mine like she was trying to pull me back to a place we could never return to. But I didn't pull away. I didn't accuse. I didn't confront. I just let her sit in her own silence, wondering if she was imagining things. And then, she started testing me. One night, as I was getting ready for bed, she leaned against the doorway, watching me. "Travis," she said softly. I glanced at her. "Yeah." She hesitated, then smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I was thinking, maybe we should go on a weekend trip? Just the two of us. I nodded. "Sure." She blinked, surprised. "Really?" "Yeah," I said, turning back to my dresser. "Sounds nice." She studied me like she was trying to read my mind, trying to figure out if I was playing a game. But I gave her nothing. Because I wanted her to feel what it was like to be deceived. I wanted her to question whether the person she thought she knew was still there. Because soon, she was going to wake up to a reality where I was no longer hers. The next step, taking back my life. While she spent her days pretending everything was fine, I spent mine making sure I was prepared. I went to a lawyer quietly, without telling a soul. I laid everything out, the financials, the assets, the plans I wanted to put into place. I made sure she would be left with nothing. Not out of spite, not out of anger, but because she had already taken everything from me. I wasn't going to let her take any more. Then, I started separating my life from hers, piece by piece. I pulled my money from our joint accounts and transferred it into a private one. I stopped paying for things she wanted. No more surprise gifts, no more covering for her extra expenses. I even started staying out later, letting her wonder where I was, what I was doing. And she noticed. At first, she tried to play it cool. Then she started getting nervous. One night, as I came home later than usual, she was sitting on the couch, waiting. "Where were you?" she asked, her voice casual, but I could hear the tension underneath. I shrugged. "Out." She frowned. "Out where?" "Just out." That was when I saw it, the flicker of something I had never seen in her before. Not guilt. Not remorse. Fear. Because for the first time, she realized I was slipping away. She realized that maybe, just maybe, she had lost me. And she had. She just didn't know how badly yet. The moment she knew. 3 weeks after the party, everything started falling apart for her. It happened on a random Thursday night. I was sitting at the kitchen table, finishing up some work, when she came in, looking hesitant. "Travis," she said, clearing her throat. "Can we talk?" I leaned back in my chair, watching her. "Sure." She fidgeted. I feel like you've been different lately." I raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" She hesitated. "I don't know. Distant. Cold. Like you're slipping away from me." I didn't respond. Because I wanted her to keep talking. And she did. She took a shaky breath. "I don't want to lose you." I studied her carefully, my expression unreadable. Then, I stood up, walked over to her, and placed a hand on her cheek. "You already have," I whispered. Her face went pale. Because for the first time, she understood. She wasn't in control anymore. And for the first time in our marriage, she was the one who was terrified. But this was only the beginning. Because soon, she was going to wake up to a world where I was no longer hers. And she would have no one to blame but herself. Lorna didn't sleep that night. I could hear her shifting beside me, her breathing uneven, as if she was waiting for me to say something, anything, that would assure her I wasn't slipping away. But I didn't. I lay there, calm, steady, breathing in sync with the darkened room. Let her feel it. Let her feel the same unease, the same uncertainty that I had felt the night she left that party. When the sun rose, I got up like nothing was wrong. She watched me as I moved through our bedroom, my steps deliberate, unhurried. When I went into the kitchen to make coffee, she followed, standing awkwardly near the counter as I poured myself a cup. She looked like she wanted to say something. I sipped my coffee and waited. "You meant what you said last night, didn't you?" Her voice was soft, uncertain. I set my cup down, meeting her gaze. "Yes." Her throat bobbed as she swallowed hard. "So that's it." I let the silence stretch between us before I answered. "That's up to you." Her eyes widened slightly, but she didn't argue. She didn't even ask what I meant. She just stood there, her hands gripping the edge of the counter as if she needed to steady herself. I finished my coffee, rinsed the cup, and walked past her without another word. She was unraveling. I could feel it. And I was just getting started. Lorna had spent months, maybe longer, making decisions behind my back, building a secret life while keeping me in the dark. She had controlled the narrative, controlled the way things played out. Now, I was shifting the power dynamic, and she had no idea how to handle it. She had expected a confrontation. She had expected anger, fights, accusations. What she hadn't expected was detachment. The slow, careful pulling away. The silent unraveling of everything she thought she had built. She started texting me more throughout the day. Little messages checking in, asking how I was, things she had stopped doing months ago. I responded, but only with short, empty words. Nothing emotional. Nothing that would give her any comfort. She started coming home earlier, too. I had always been the one to wait for her in the evenings, wondering what excuse she would come up with for being late. Now, I was the one who stayed out. I didn't tell her where I went, didn't give her an explanation. And that drove her crazy. She tried to act normal for the first week. Pretended like we were still fine. She even suggested we have dinner together, something we hadn't done properly in months. I agreed. But when she sat across from me at the table, picking at her food, I could see the way her fingers trembled slightly around her fork. She was waiting for me to ask, "Where were you that night? Who was he? How long has this been going on?" I never did. She broke first. It happened late one evening. I was in the living room, watching a game, when she came in and turned off the TV. I stared at her, unimpressed. She looked wrecked, her usually perfect hair slightly messy, her expression tight. "I can't take this anymore," she blurted out. I raised an eyebrow. "Take what?" "This." She gestured between us. "You're different. You're punishing me for something I didn't do." I tilted my head slightly. "Punishing you?" She sucked in a sharp breath, her fists clenching at her sides. "You think I cheated on you?" I stared at her. Let the silence drag out. I could see the panic creeping into her eyes. Finally, I spoke. "I don't think anything, Lorna." Her lips parted slightly, her confidence slipping. She had expected me to argue, to accuse her, to explode. Instead, I had given her nothing. She took a shaky step closer. "Travis, I don't know what you think you saw that night, but I swear it." I stood up, and she instantly went silent. "I saw exactly what I needed to," I said, my voice calm. "And that's all that matters." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I didn't give her a chance to recover. I walked past her, leaving her standing in the living room, confused, unsteady. She was unraveling, and I was making sure she felt every single thread coming loose. The next day, I made my biggest move yet. I changed my bank accounts completely, removing my name from anything joint and securing everything under mine alone. I hired the best divorce lawyer I could find, one who specialized in cases where a spouse had been unfaithful. I gave them everything I had, not just proof of her strange behavior, but records of her spending, patterns of her nights out, questionable transactions on her credit card. If she thought I was just going to walk away quietly, she was wrong. Lorna had always underestimated me. She saw me as reliable, predictable, the husband who would always be there, no matter what she did. She had no idea who she was actually dealing with. And the best part? I wasn't even done yet. Lorna's unraveling became more obvious by the day. She had always been composed, always had an answer for everything. But now? Now she was jittery, distracted, constantly looking over her shoulder like she was waiting for something to explode. She didn't know what it was, but she could feel it coming. And that was exactly what I wanted. The power had shifted, and she knew it. She started trying harder, so much harder. It was almost laughable how quickly she switched tactics. One minute, she was acting like everything was fine, flashing those fake little smiles as if she could convince me that I had imagined it all. The next, she was suddenly the devoted wife she hadn't been in years. She cooked my favorite meals. She suggested movie nights. She lingered in the doorway when I got home, waiting for a kiss that never came. She reached for my hand at random moments, as if touching me would tether me back to her. I let her try. Because the longer she scrambled, the more careless she became. She started slipping up. One night, I forgot my phone in the kitchen and left it recording. When I retrieved it later, I found exactly what I had been hoping for. Lorna had called someone the moment I stepped out of the house. Her voice was hushed, urgent. "I don't know what's going on. He's different. He's not saying anything, but I can feel it. He knows something." A pause. Then, "You think I don't know that? I've been trying, but he's not reacting. It's like he's just waiting." Another pause. "No, I can't just come over. He's watching everything now. If I slip up." Silence. Then, finally, in a near whisper, "I think I made a mistake." I listened to that recording 3 times that night. I wanted to burn it into my brain, wanted to remember the exact moment she realized she had lost control. But I still wasn't done. Not even close. Over the next 2 weeks, I continued pulling away. I stopped responding to her desperate attempts at connection. I went out more, coming home late without explanations. I was deliberate about it, making sure she had just enough time alone with her thoughts to let her paranoia grow. One night, she finally broke. I had just come home when she rushed to meet me at the door. Her hair was messy, her eyes wide with something between panic and exhaustion. "Where were you?" I raised an eyebrow. "Out." "With who?" I stepped past her, shrugging off my jacket. "Why do you care?" Her fingers curled into fists at her sides. "Because you're my husband." That made me laugh. Actually laugh. She flinched at the sound. "Now you remember that." I mused, my voice light. "Funny how that works." Her face paled. "Travis, please." I turned to her, my expression unreadable. What exactly are you asking for, Lorna? She hesitated, her mouth opening and closing like she wasn't sure how to phrase it. I decided to help her. Are you asking me to forget? I took a step closer, my voice calm. Are you asking me to pretend I don't see the way you've been acting for months? That I didn't see you that night? She swallowed hard, her throat working. I leaned in just a little. Or are you asking me to let you keep your secret? Silence. Her lips trembled, her entire body suddenly stiff with tension. And that was my answer. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't devastated because she had betrayed me. She was devastated because she got caught. I let the silence hang between us, watching as she stood there, her entire body frozen in place. Then I stepped back. Get some sleep, Lorna, I said, walking past her. You're going to need it. She didn't reply. She just stood there, staring after me, completely lost. And that was the moment I knew. She was terrified, and I was just getting started. The next day, I took the final steps to ensure my exit would be clean. I met with my lawyer again, finalizing the details of the divorce paperwork. I gathered every single bit of financial information I needed, ensuring that by the time I handed her those papers, she would have nothing left to fight for. I didn't want a messy divorce. I wanted an effortless one that would leave her with no room to argue, no loopholes to slip through. When I returned home that evening, I found her in the kitchen, sitting at the counter with her phone beside her. She looked up the moment I walked in, her expression hopeful. Hey, she said softly. I made dinner. I glanced at the untouched plates of food in front of her. I smiled. That's nice. She frowned slightly, as if waiting for me to sit down. I didn't. Instead, I pulled a thick envelope from my coat pocket and placed it on the counter between us. Lorna stared at it, confused. What's this? I tapped the envelope once. Open it. She hesitated before reaching for it, her fingers trembling slightly as she peeled it open. The moment she saw what was inside, her breath hitched. She looked up at me, her face pale. I filed this morning, I said, my voice steady. It's done. She blinked rapidly, her lips parting like she wanted to say something, but no words came out. And then, for the first time since that night at the party, I saw it, realization. It was over. Not a fight, not an argument, not a storm of rage and accusations. Just over. She had been expecting a battle. She had been preparing for it. But she never expected me to walk away without giving her one. I watched as her hands gripped the edges of the paper, her breath shallow. I tilted my head slightly. You look surprised. She swallowed hard. I thought. What? I asked, my voice quiet. You thought you had more time? Silence. I nodded slowly. That's the problem with people like you, Lorna. You never realize when the clock runs out. And then, just like that, I turned and walked out of the kitchen. She didn't follow. She didn't say a word. Because for the first time since this all began, she had lost everything. And I had finally won. Lorna didn't speak to me that night. She didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't beg. She just sat there, clutching the divorce papers like they were a ticking time bomb. I expected her to come into the bedroom, to try to talk me out of it. Maybe throw out some last-minute apology, some desperate plea. But she never did. Instead, she stayed in the kitchen long after I had left, motionless, staring at those documents like she couldn't believe what was happening. It was almost funny. She had spent so long believing she was in control, that she could do whatever she wanted, keep me in the dark, and that I would always be there, waiting, forgiving, accepting. She never saw this coming. But I had. For weeks, I had been orchestrating this moment, making sure that when I walked away, it would be final. And now, she had to live with it. I woke up early the next morning, long before she did. The house was eerily silent as I moved through it, grabbing my things, making sure I had everything I needed. I had planned this perfectly. She would wake up to an empty bed, an empty house. And for the first time in years, she would have no idea where I was. I left my wedding ring on the nightstand. No note. No explanation. Just silence. By the time she finally woke up, I was already gone. I spent the next few weeks watching my plan unfold exactly as I had envisioned. Lorna went through phases. At first, she tried denial. She didn't file a response to the divorce papers right away. She went about her routine as if nothing had changed, pretending like I was just angry, like I just needed time to cool off. She texted me short, cautious messages. Hey, can we talk? I think we should at least discuss this. I don't understand why you're doing this. I ignored every single one. And that drove her crazy. Because for the first time in our entire marriage, I wasn't giving her what she wanted. She started showing up at places she knew I frequented. At my gym, at the coffee shop near my office. I saw her once, sitting in her car, watching the entrance like she was waiting for me. I walked right past her without a second glance. And that's when the second phase began. She started getting desperate. The texts became longer, messier. Travis, please, just talk to me. You can't do this. We built a life together. Doesn't that mean anything to you? I know things have been hard, but we can fix this. Just tell me what you want. I don't want to lose you. Please, Travis. I never replied. And that's when the call started. At first, she tried to sound composed, like she had control of the situation. Travis, listen, I get it. Okay? I get that you're upset. But you're making a mistake. We can fix this. Just call me back. Then, as more days passed, her voice started changing. She sounded frantic. Travis, why are you doing this? I don't deserve this. I know I made mistakes, but doesn't our marriage count for something? I never answered. I never even let it go to voicemail. And that's when she finally cracked. One night, weeks after I had left, I was sitting in my new apartment when my phone buzzed. It wasn't a text this time. It was a single notification. Missed call, Lorna. Followed by another. And another. Then, a voicemail. I let it sit there, untouched, for hours before finally pressing play. The moment I heard her voice, I knew. She had hit her breaking point. Travis, she started, her voice thick with something between exhaustion and frustration. I know you're listening. I know you're seeing my messages. And I know you're doing this to punish me. A pause. A sharp inhale. But I need you to understand something. Silence. Then, barely above a whisper. I never thought you would actually leave me. I closed my eyes. There it was. Not an apology. Not an admission of guilt. Just shock. Shock that I had walked away. That I had done what she never thought I was capable of. And that was all I needed to hear. I deleted the voicemail without responding. Lorna was nothing to me now. And she was finally starting to understand that. The final blow came exactly how I had planned. A month after I left, she received the final notice. A court date. A deadline. A clear, undeniable message. This was real. This was happening. And there was nothing she could do to stop it. She tried one last time. She showed up at my apartment. I wasn't surprised. She stood outside the door, knocking insistently, calling my name. I didn't answer. She knocked harder. Travis, please. Just open the door. I stood on the other side, silent. I could hear her breathing, shaky, desperate. Travis, she whispered, I love you. For the first time in weeks, I felt something. Not anger. Not sadness. Just pity. Because she still didn't get it. Love wasn't a shield. Love didn't erase betrayal. Love didn't undo what she had done. After a few minutes, her footsteps retreated down the hall. I waited until I heard the elevator doors close before I finally moved. I walked over to the window, watching as she stepped outside, pausing on the sidewalk like she was waiting for something. And then, after what felt like a lifetime, she pulled out her phone and dialed a number. I already knew who she was calling. I smiled, because she still thought she had options. She still thought she could salvage something from this. But she was wrong. By the time she realized it, by the time she truly understood that I was gone, it would be far, far too late. Lorna's last desperate attempt at contact didn't surprise me. If anything, I had been expecting it. She had lost control, and she was grasping at whatever she could to hold onto the illusion that she could fix things. But there was nothing left to fix. I had already moved on, not just physically but mentally. She was nothing more than a ghost of the past, an afterthought in a life I was no longer living. But I knew her. I knew she wouldn't give up without one last fight. And sure enough, a week after she stood outside my apartment whispering, I love you, into the void, she escalated. I woke up one morning to a string of texts, longer, messier, more desperate than ever. Travis, please. We need to talk. Face to face. One last time. I can't sleep. I can't eat. This isn't how things were supposed to end. I made a mistake. I know I did. But I swear, I never wanted to hurt you. You have to believe me. Can we just talk? Please? Just once? I stared at my phone, sipping my coffee, reading every single message without a single ounce of emotion. Then, I blocked her number. It was over. And for the first time since this all began, I could finally breathe. I wish I could say that was the end of it. That she faded out of my life like a bad dream, that I never saw or heard from her again. But Lorna had one last card to play. One last pathetic, desperate attempt to rewrite history. She showed up at my workplace. I was in the middle of a meeting when I got a message from security. A woman is here asking to see you. Says it's urgent. I knew exactly who it was. I could have ignored it, but I didn't. Instead, I got up, adjusted my tie, and calmly walked down to the lobby, where I found Lorna standing near the front desk, shifting nervously from foot to foot. The moment she saw me, her face lit up with relief. Like she actually thought I would welcome her. Like she thought there was still something left between us. I stopped a few feet away, crossing my arms. What are you doing here, Lorna? She exhaled shakily, her eyes searching mine. I needed to see you. You wouldn't answer my calls, my texts. You blocked me. I nodded. Yeah, I did. She swallowed hard, nodding slightly, like she was trying to stay calm. Okay, that's fair. I just need 5 minutes, Travis. That's all I'm asking. I tilted my head. And if I say no? Her breath hitched slightly, but she forced out a smile. Then I'll leave. I promise. I studied her for a moment, debating whether to even entertain whatever speech she had prepared. But something inside me told me to hear her out. Not because I cared, but because I wanted to see it. I wanted to watch her try and fail one last time. I gestured toward a quiet corner of the lobby, away from listening ears. 5 minutes. She let out a soft, relieved breath. Thank you. We sat down at a small table, and for a moment, she just looked at me. And for the first time, I saw it. She was exhausted. The dark circles under her eyes, the slight tremble in her fingers, the way she seemed smaller somehow, like she had collapsed in on herself. I didn't feel sorry for her. I just wondered if she finally understood what it felt like to be discarded. She took a deep breath. I messed up, Travis. I stayed silent. I know you don't believe me, and I don't blame you, but I never wanted this. Her voice cracked slightly. I never wanted to lose you. I arched an eyebrow. But you did. She flinched at the coldness in my tone. I know, she whispered. And I deserve it. I know I do. But she inhaled sharply, gripping the edge of the table. I just wanted to say it. To your face. I wanted you to hear it. I leaned forward slightly. Do you want my forgiveness, Lorna? Her breath caught in her throat. Because she knew I wouldn't give it to her. She shook her head slowly. No. I don't want you to hate me. I let out a quiet chuckle, shaking my head. Hate you. I repeated. Lorna, I don't even think about you. Her face crumpled, just for a second. I pushed back my chair, standing up. Your 5 minutes are up. She looked up at me, eyes pleading. Travis, please. I turned my back on her and walked away. That was the last time I ever saw her. She signed the divorce papers a week later. No fight. No contest. Just defeat. She had lost. And I had finally, completely won. A few months later, I heard from a mutual acquaintance that she had left the city. Apparently, she wanted a fresh start. I almost laughed when I heard that. Because I was the one who got a fresh start. I moved on. I built a new life, free from her lies, her betrayal, her poison. And the best part? She had to live with the fact that she wasn't the one who ended us. I was. She had to live with the fact that she didn't get to control the story. I did. And that was the perfect revenge. Time has a funny way of making things clear. When you're in the middle of something devastating, it feels like the weight of the world is crushing you, like you'll never escape it. But one day, you wake up, and the pain isn't the first thing you feel. The memories don't hit you like a gut punch. And before you know it, the person who once dominated your every thought is nothing more than a passing shadow. That's what happened with Lorna. For a while, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for her to try one last desperate attempt to drag me back into her mess. But she never did, because there was nothing left for her to hold on to. I had taken everything back. My life, my dignity, my future. And she had to live with the fact that she lost everything. She didn't just lose me. She lost the life she had built around me, the comfort of knowing that I would always be there. She lost the security of having a husband who would have once forgiven her, who would have once fought to fix things. She lost the power. And I knew, without a doubt, that it haunted her. I never reached out to her. Never checked her social media. Never asked mutual acquaintances how she was doing. She didn't exist to me anymore. She was just someone I used to know. And that was the ultimate closure. A full year passed before she tried to reach out again. I got an email one night, just a short, simple message. Travis, I know it's been a long time. I don't expect you to respond, but I wanted to say something. I'm sorry. Truly. I hope you're happy. That was it. No excuses. No pleas for forgiveness. Just an ending. I read it once. And then, without a second thought, I deleted it. Because I was happy. I had rebuilt my life in a way I never thought possible. I had found peace. I had found myself again. Lorna was nothing more than a name from my past. And that's when I realized. I had one long before she ever sent that email. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need closure. I already had it. Because while she had spent the last year looking back, regretting, wondering what could have been, I had been moving forward, and I had never looked back. Not even once.